Tatyana Fertelmeyster and Marie Sheffield are both mental health professionals and intercultural diversity consultants. They are both practitioners of personal leadership. Marie is an art therapist, an expert in working with trauma victims and collective healing. She is a mother of 4 teenagers, triplets plus 1, oh my gosh, and lives in the state of Maine. Tatyana came to the United States as a refugee from the former Soviet Union. She is an expert in working through loss and change. She is a mother of 2 millennials and a grandmother of 3 teenagers and lives in the state of Illinois. And with that, ladies, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Denise, for the introduction, and very much thank you for giving us this opportunity to bring our sort of conversation about making friends with uncertainty into this space. I would like to start us off by identifying a couple of concepts. One of them is VUCA, V-U-C-A, that nobody other than military heard about a couple of years ago. And now anytime you look at any website that has news articles, you will see VUCA world all over the place. VUCA stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And we have all been swimming in it for this last couple of years, for sure. And we were swimming in it in very different ways because some people had a lot of VUCA going on in their lives to begin with, and the events of last 2 years were added to it. For some people, it was maybe their first experience of that level of uncertainty. And also uncertainty is something that we very much know in our personal lives without any big events happening. Yeah, they can be in a relationship, it can be work related. There are all kinds of things where uncertainty is showing up. And in the personal leadership approach, and personal leadership is about dealing with oneself while dealing with everything else around you, people and events. The uncertainty is looked at as time between what was and what will be. And how often are we stretched between this what was and what will be without necessarily being where we actually are in the present moment? Our wish as human beings so often is about, can we know yesterday what happened tomorrow? It's kind of a funny English, but that really reflects how we often think about our desire to know what happens tomorrow, to be able to look at it to yesterday, to check our decisions, to make certain that what we decide today will be true tomorrow. It is illusion of all illusions, but we keep doing that for many, many reasons that we are going to identify today, not all of them, some of them.
Great. And yes, hello everyone. Nice to see you. So I was born into a world of uncertainty. I am the great-granddaughter of ancestral trauma due to the genocide of Native Americans. And that trauma filtered down through my line of family until I was born. And so when Tatyana talks about uncertainty, about the place in between 2 times, that was my childhood, really growing up between the reality of a parent who wasn't able to get support and help that she needed, and the reality of the world around me. So being born into uncertainty and having to befriend it at such an early age was a benefit and not a negative, but created a lot of resistance in my life. So in my family culture and community, emotions and traumatic events were often numbed. right? There was a conditioning to numb what's really going on here. And through that numbness, I, in my development, just kind of pressed it down into my body. And there's lots of research now that shows how kind of repressed trauma sits in our bodies. And so every time that a traumatic event or something would make me feel uncertain as I grew up as an adult, I became, that numbness got scratched. And so instead of attending to it because it was so fearful and full of anxiety, I would roll it over again and just continue on with my life. So I got really good at that. But I also, as an adult, got really great at working with children who had experienced mass trauma and terrorism in the last 21 years. So I was great at sitting in that chaos, being in that crisis, and helping guide children through their own empowerment towards healing. And so I really am here because of the children. And a lot of my work that I've done has been intercultural. Many different cultures of people coming together, of children who are resettling from war and persecution. And meeting their parents and meeting cultural leaders and creating relationships really allowed me to get a different perspective outside of my Western purview of what uncertainty is and what a gift it can be, and how it's not something to be feared. So today, in the times of COVID, we are given a sustained liminality of uncertainty, right? This is sustained amount of uncertainty within us. And in this time, we have had to slow down. We've been forced to slow down, and we've been forced to look at things around us, around what's going on in our world with the environment, with racism, and with collective trauma of the pandemic. So from this point, I want to just bring it on to Tatyana for the first piece.
Didn't she get me to just a fun point? That's how we roll. We are learning more and more today about how our brains are involved in everything. And uncertainty definitely happens in our brains, and it plays really interesting games there. Many years ago, being a teenager in the Soviet Union, I got an opportunity to go on this school exchange for a couple of weeks, summer school exchange. I went to East Berlin with the group of school children whom I didn't know. They were from a different school. I found myself for the first time ever outside of the country with people I didn't know. In Germany, that for me, being Jewish, pushed all kinds of buttons to begin with. So there was a lot of mess going on for me, a lot of emotions. And my brain figured out how to find certainty in this whole uncertainty. My brain came up with this brilliant idea that because I'm gone, because I'm away, because everything else is going on, 2 weeks from now, I will be coming back home and I will be coming to attend my mother's funeral. Fortunately for everybody, my mom was picking me up from the train station, and she lived for many more years before I actually had to attend her funeral. But our brains catch on to something that gives us that sense of certainty. And quite often they catch on to the most negative idea, the worst possible scenario, because we convince ourselves that this is what's going to happen, and then we act accordingly. If you think about our life today in the modern culture, this is my phone here, yeah? I go here to check my emails. I go here to know what the weather is like. I go here to know what's going on the road and how long it will take me to get where I'm going. we go here more and more so for complete certainty about things that normally would have been kind of a normal unknown. You get on the road and you get there when you get there in old times. If I would in old times send a letter to Marie who lives in Maine from where I am in Illinois, it would have taken a few days. And she responds to me, it would have taken a few days to come back. And I will be okay with it because it takes that long. Now I'm expecting her to respond to my email immediately, to respond to my text message immediately. There is no space for uncertainty that we are leaving for ourselves. So if we think about relationships with uncertainty, we titled our talk, Making Friends with Uncertainty. So I want to ask you, what kind of friend do you envision in uncertainty? What kind of friend do you want it to be? And what kind of a friend are you willing to be for your uncertainty? Yeah, we have really good friends who can be with us in hard times. We have really good friends who can be with us in fun times. Not every one of our friends can be with us both in good times and bad times. Nor can we be everywhere for everybody. But what kind of a relationship do we want to have with our uncertainty? If I were a real friend to my uncertainty, I want to be able to acknowledge it, to recognize it, not to push it away and tell it, you know, never show up in my life. I would engage in conversation. I would ask, what is that about? Why are you coming right now? Why are you kind of knocking on my door at this moment? Not going into resistance, go away from here and not show up ever, but also not going into come in anytime and just make yourself at home in my space. So it is about engaging in this relationship. And to be present for our own sense of uncertainty and developing this relationship with it. There is this wonderful formula that kind of turns upside down the formula that we're used to. I'm sure everyone here grew up with some variation of don't just sit there, do something. Yeah? In order for us to make friends with our uncertainty and other experiences that we're having, I would suggest turning it around into don't just do something, sit there, be present, take it in, spend some time with it, and there is a lot of learning to be had from experiencing your own moment of uncertainty.
All right, so we are going to launch into an activity for us to do. And just to reiterate again, you know, what is your relationship with uncertainty, right? So for me, growing up, when I became an adult, if there was an uncertain moment, I would want to control it all, right? Want to just control it or move through it or ignore it. And the other thing to think about with uncertainty in the situation is, what do I not know, right? What do I not know about a situation? So really understanding that we don't know it all, right? Especially when I'm trying to control a situation. There's so much I don't know about the situation. And then what can I do in this moment, as Tatyana says? So as we also talked about, there's this conditioning that's happening where we're living in a world of uncertainty, of acceleration, not knowing going forward, and we're fixtured into this space, this Zoom space where it's just our heads, right? And what about our bodies, right? We've kind of lost that too, because during collective trauma, or any kind of trauma, it basically permeates your body, and it separates yourself from yourself, from the inner self, and it also separates yourself from each other. So how do we kind of reconnect those pieces in this moment? So what I'd like you to do is just to do a simple exercise with us. So if you look at your wrist, there's a top crease here, and this is a quantum science activity, but it's really using your body to teach you. So you want to align your top creases with each other. Okay. And then line up your fingers. And Tatyana, what do you call this? This is called giving a finger to uncertainty. So what I would like you to do is to look at your middle fingers. Is there one that's taller than the other? Okay. If you have one that's taller than the other, then think about the shorter one. Is it your left hand or your right hand middle finger? Okay, so you have to keep that in mind. If you have if your middle fingers are the same, then you need to choose which finger, the left or the right. Okay, so now we're gonna release, and you can just lay your wrists on the table or on your legs. Don't clasp, but just kind of keep your hands together, not together, but separated. And just bring an initial intention that whichever finger you chose, whichever finger was the shortest, you want to bring intention to that finger and just allow it to grow. So that you're going to take a quick intention to that finger and then release the intention and just focus solely on that finger without making it do anything at this point. So we're going to take about 30 seconds and you're going to solely focus on that shorter finger or the finger you chose. Just give it all of your attention and awareness. Okay, you can flutter your eyes open. And now connect the creases again. Align your fingers. And what did you notice? There's a change. So the point about doing this is that we have really, over our conditioned existence in the Western world and where we are right now. Yeah, Mary, you see a big change. We have cut ourselves off from our whole intelligence. And so when we think of mind, body, spirit, that can actually be in alignment to help us get through uncertain times. So when we talk about this simple awareness, we just simply paid attention to this finger, gave it our attention, and look what happened, right? So how do we slow down in this world? How do we acknowledge what's going on and hold on to it? Because in this space between not knowing is called liminal space. And once we can get through the fear or through the anxiety of having to sit with perhaps pain or crossing that threshold, there is actually something behind it, right? So we're gonna, and it's a choice, right? It's a choice. We can either acknowledge this uncertain thing's going on and just railroad right through it and stay in the lane we're always used to, or we can actually make a choice to do something different. So we want to give you a little tool to do something different. It was developed by Michelle McDonald, and about, I don't know, 30 years ago in the 70s, so even 40 years ago, 40 something. So it was done way back, and it's called RAIN, and I'm not sure if anyone's heard about it, but you can do it as a meditation, but we're just going to talk through it. But I like the RAIN because it actually, you know, RAIN is like a purification, right? It cleanses, and so it's a nice acronym for me to use. So with RAIN, the first step is to recognize what's going on. So, right. So how do you just kind of have this intention moving forward about being aware that, oh my gosh, I'm feeling so uncertain, or I'm in that space, right? I'm in that space. So that's recognize. Allow is the experience to just let it be, to not try to react, to not try to move it forward, but just try to let it be as it is, to accept it, right? To allow it to be part of you. Because if it's not able to integrate into you, then it's just going to be there and get repressed and repressed. So then the third one is the I, is investigate. So this is where you really sit with yourself and sit with your body and close your eyes and get kind of just investigate how it feels in your body, right? And there's the three systems. There's the body, and then the feelings, the spirit, and then the mind. It's trying to reflect back what it means to me, what insight is coming. So investigate with kindness. So kindly sit, give your space give yourself that space to really attend to the connection in your body. How are you feeling, and how does it make sense? And so that is the natural awareness, which is the N of rain. So natural awareness. And in the Western world, we've been very conditioned to attach to things, and attached to material objects, attached to feelings, and have them consume us. But a natural awareness is to not identify with this experience as something that's part of you, but something that you are experiencing. So that's the RAIN method, and it's online. There's lots of different people doing different meditations. Yeah, so it's really about how do we give ourselves the intention and use our whole intelligence to move through uncertainty as a friend towards insight. So thank you.
And we will close today with one of our favorite poems written by Wendell Berry, and it is called "It May Be." It may be that when we no longer know what to do, we have come to our real work. And when we no longer know which way to go, we have begun our real journey. The mind that is not baffled is not employed. The impeded stream is the one that sings. So thank you all very much for being here, and appreciate yourself as this impeded stream that you are, with everything that goes into it. Thank you.